accomplish that. I think we have about an hour. But yeah, definitely feel free to ask away. Just quickly, are all your majors in the communication? Are you guys in the communication school? And I know probably you haven't studied much about advertising yet, but just it helps me to understand, like, what is the perception when somebody says an ad agency or marketing firm? I mean, what, sometimes TV shows have it in there and all that. What comes to mind? Anything? Not much.
Don't be shy.
Don't be shy.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Well, I will hopefully give you a good feel for what we do. Sometimes people used to say, because like some TV shows were built around people in an ad agency, and people always thought they just drank and had fun. So that's not totally true. So we actually work hard, and I'll sort of explain why people hire us. But just to start, how I got into it. And this is not necessarily follow what I did, because maybe don't follow what I did. But when I went to college, actually, I had no idea I wanted to get in advertising. I wasn't even in this side of I was an economics major with a plan to go to law school. And basically, as college started to get towards the end, I realized, after I took my law test and just barely squeaked by, I realized I didn't want to go back to school for 3 more years. And I had a marketing class, actually, and I went to school in Miami of Ohio. And I'm from Ohio in Cleveland. And this guy taught us, and he was more in marketing and salesmanship. And he worked at Procter & Gamble. And he came in at night. A lot of times we would have adjunct professors that come in at night, that work during the day, and actually I did the same thing in Ohio. And he was fascinating. I mean, his whole job was to get his box of Tide in front of the competitor on the shelf of a supermarket. He said, of course, everybody's going to buy my box of Tide. Who doesn't buy Tide? But where I'm positioned on the shelf makes all the difference. That was his whole job. And then he made a whole class out of talking about what's involved in doing that. And I was just like enthralled. And it was marketing / advertising, but / salesmanship. So anyways, I got a job for a big company out of college to be in sales, because that's the part that sort of excited me. And I went to work for a really large company. It was a Fortune 20 company. Good salary, company car, and I just absolutely hated it. And so, and I'm from Ohio, but I was transferred to New Jersey, and my territory was Manhattan. And I met my wife there, so something good happened from there. But I called my dad, who was in a newspaper business, and was complaining to him. Well, my dad always told me that advertising would be a good field, but as like the firstborn son of a bunch of sons, I never listened to my dad. Well, finally, my ears opened up. I said, okay, I hate my job. It pays me well, but I'm miserable. And that's rule number 1: never do something you don't like. I'm living proof of that. I've told my kids, I've told my students, find something you like to do. And he said, okay, you're finally ready to listen. I have a friend who used to work with me at the Cleveland Plain Dealer. It was a local newspaper in Cleveland, who started an ad agency. And he's building it, but he needs somebody to help him get new accounts. Well, I had been a salesman for 2 years. I was trained by a very big company, so I was pretty good at that. So I took a week's vacation from my job in New Jersey and went to Cleveland and spent a week following this guy. And it was a small, like 8-person ad agency. And I loved it. I mean, absolutely loved it. I was 24 years old at the time. And I could just say right then, this is what I want to do in my life. I mean, it was fast-paced. It wasn't boring. The days were all different. I worked with clients like on their business needs, but yet I got to work with our staff, which were artists and writers and creative people. And I was using both sides of my brain, and it was fun. So I quit my job. My wife was finishing school in New Jersey. Said, good news, bad news is I found what I want to do. Bad news is in Cleveland. She was in New Jersey. But we talked and agreed that I need to follow my dreams. And so she finished school in New Jersey. We got married and we moved to Cleveland. And I went to work for this small company. And my boss, as it turned out, wasn't the best. He was a really good salesman, and I further learned how to sell. But he wasn't really great with people. And 2 years into my job, one of my clients, I was like an account person. I sort of handled the relationship. Said to me, and my boss's name was Stan, Dave, we love you, but we hate Stan. In fact, you understand, I cannot sign another check to that guy. He just drives me the wrong way. So, and I said, well, we're doing good for you, right? And you like me, right? He said, I don't care. I just cannot stand him. You're fired. But the good news is we like you. and why don't you start your own business and we'll be your first account. So basically, at 26, and I knew stuff, but I wasn't, I wasn't really ready to run a business. But they had faith in me, and even said, if you screw up, that's okay, we'll fire you, but you'll get another job. And I got married. My wife had a good job. We had no kids. We lived in an apartment. Our expenses were low. Said, what the heck? Never really thinking it would take off. I mean, most businesses fail. At least I was told that. But then I told my boss, who hated it. But I quit. Plus, I took the account. But there were no agreements at that time. And that started my journey into basically never having a bad day of work ever since. They say if you like what you do, it's, as work, it's not going to work. And people say, yeah, I get that. Everybody says that. It's true. I mean, I'm living testament. I mean, I'm in my 60s now. I have my son and somebody else. I could quit my business right now. I mean, I paid my dues and we've done well enough, but I don't want to quit. Joanne and I were talking about it. I mean, I have a succession plan with my son and somebody else, but from a selfish standpoint, it's still fun for me. I can only play so much golf and do other things. I mean, it is fun for me. And, that in the essence, and I'm not saying you go in the ad business or the marketing business, but find something you like to do. I mean, that's probably the most important thing that I will say today. And it doesn't necessarily even mean a job. It's find out what you like to do, and then how does that career lend itself to that? Are you good with, do you like being out and about like I do? Or do you like to maybe spend time at your desk? Which is, neither one is better. It's just who you are. Or do you like a hybrid of those? That is real important. So I got lucky. I mean, at the age of 20, basically at the age of 24, when I got this job, it set me on my path. When I started my business at 26, again, I wasn't thinking like that then. I'm just thinking, how do you get to the next day, then the next month? And it took me years to get to the point where I actually felt I had a viable business. But even in down times, and we've had good times and we've had bad times. I mean, when the economy tanked in like 2008, it set us, in a sort of a spiral for a number of years. But even during those times where, I was worried if the business would last and we'd have enough money to pay our bills, I always liked it, and I think that's sort of my story and background. As I've built the business, our capabilities have gotten better. And I'll get into what we do. But honestly, and I've gotten better because I've learned more, but in some respects, I've sort of stayed the same. I'm working with clients, I'm managing people, I'm dealing with people, dealing with ideas. So we've gotten better as a company. We do a whole lot of more things than we used to do, but in some respects, the blocking and tackling of what we do is the same. And it's sort of, I'll say, it's sort of based on, obviously, I'm a big believer you have to like what you do, which means hopefully you have a good attitude. You bring a good attitude to work every day, which is important. And I'm a big believer in no matter what, we have a lot of graphic designers that work for us, but they still deal with people. They sit at their screen and, obviously everything is done, on our Macs and all that. But we have a team and people deal with people. And, a lot of businesses are in the relationship business. So people will say, well, what do you do? I say, well, I own an ad agency and a marketing firm. Well, we build websites and we do TV commercials and we do this and that and that. But honestly, I say, you know what? We're in the relationship business. If we get the relationship part right and we know what we're doing, we're set. We won't screw it up. If we don't understand the value of a relationship and what that means, well, we will screw it up. Because people will find a way, because nobody's going to like everything we do. We're in a subjective business. So I'm sort of big on these intangible qualities, but I do believe that they're important, and I'll get back into this later. That's stuff we look for. That's what I look for when we build our team and hire people. But again, what is advertising? What does an agency do? Again, there's all different types of sizes of agencies. I mean, there are 1 or 2 people agencies, so there's some very small agencies. I mean, currently we have 13 people. We're hiring our 14th now. I've been as high as 18. So we've been in that size for a long time. In our market, Cleveland, we're not even considered a small business. We're like a mid-sized ad agency. Ad agencies aren't like big companies that have thousands of people, although some in New York are because they're owned by conglomerates and all that. But in the ad business, we're like a mid-sized company. People look to us, they look to us before and certainly now. Obviously they want their ads to look good and copy to be written well, and our websites to function well. But honestly, that's up to us. They figure we'll figure that out. They're usually looking to us to, in most cases, increase sales. I mean, we're judged on a scorecard. A lot of people say, it's good for agencies to win all awards and make your stuff. And again, some people will talk to you and have a different take. I don't like awards. I mean, I think they're a little BS. Because a lot of times they're based on really the aesthetics of a campaign and what your peers think more than what the market thinks. We're really concerned, how does the market, how do they relate to the ads we put together, the campaigns? Does it help our client? Only scorecard. Does it help our client? We've entered a few things, won some, lost some. I'm embarrassed to even put them in our show, because it really doesn't reflect the importance of our field. So usually when people look for us, now a lot of people look online. Back in the day when I started, it wasn't that way. Obviously there was no such thing. But people now, you need a good website. You need a website to communicate what you do, which, I think ours sort of sets the tone. We're a friendly, casual place, and I think we know what we're doing. But we're going to compete with other people who look like a friendly, casual place. It looks like they know what they're doing. A typical customer will round up 6 of us and say, okay, you look good. I like your website, your people seem fun, you seem like you know what you're doing, you've been in business 37 years. But I found other people. We're 6 of us, 6 companies we're talking to. What makes you different? And that's our job to explain that. And again, we don't, some people take a dip. This is where the roads start to veer off. And some people talk about their award-winning creative or their edgy, brand. We don't. We talk like we're business people, and I'm trained as a business person. I was an economics major. I sort of come from more the business end of things, but I yet work with creative people. We always talk about business metrics. Well, what do you need? And how many more sales do you need? If we're spending $10,000, how much business do you need to get to make that a good return? We sort of talk, or I sort of talk, and my son and Melissa now, we talk in terms of like business deliverables. Basically, in my opinion, people hire us to increase maybe make their brand more visible, get it out there, but that is only a step. So that's one step in making them get more sales. So we have to do steps. So in many cases, we are hired by people who, some of them have a new business, and we're building their brand. We've named companies where it's right at the beginning. And we love that. It's fun because the sheet of paper is blank. But yet we've been hired by people, that's 4th generation business that's been around 70 years. And they say, we're stuck. We just can't go anywhere. It's not quite the same as, naming a company and starting at the beginning, but in some respects it is. We're sort of trying to learn from the past, learn what worked, understand what makes them unique, which again, I'll get back to that, but that's what we're trying to find out, what makes them unique. And then we build a new brand. Sometimes, like nowadays everybody has a website. So unless it's a new company, we're not even building their site anymore. But in most cases, we're either retooling or rebuilding, which is not cheap. But sometimes it just doesn't reflect who they are. And from that, we then go out and do different tactics. But that is, when we go to market, we basically say, we'll hold your hand, we're nurturing, we know what we're doing, but we understand this is for a business reason, and we're fun to work with, and I think our company is fun, but we're very serious. And that's sort of how we go to market. That we almost talk business more than we talk graphics or, copy. We're talking business, and we're saying we're going to do everything creatively that's going to steer customers to think, like, you're going to hire us, like, why us? Well, we're doing the same thing for our customers, why them? And it sort of starts with the brand. That's, I think, where we start. And when somebody does hire us, so say we started with 6 companies, we're competing, and they like us and say, okay, Dave, we like your pitch, we like that. We didn't even sign long-term contracts. Some people do have a really fancy legalese in their contract. Our lawyer thinks I'm an idiot, but I don't do that. We have a contract, it's 1 page, they sign it. Theoretically, somebody could engage us and fire us in a month. And we will not sue them. I mean, we don't like that. But in 37 years, that's happened twice. We do handshake deals. We say, well, first of all, you got to give us enough time. Usually we'll ask for 6 months at least. But if something goes wrong in the first few months, again, we don't want somebody who doesn't want us. So we want to make sure we have a good relationship. But we really feel that by doing our work and doing the right things, this will work out. And that is sort of the philosophy that we've used as a business, is that the more they get to know us and they know how we work, and not everything in the marketing field or advertising field works. Sometimes you have to experiment. But they know that we know that. And then it evolves. And so I'm sort of proud that, and we have about 25 clients. The average life of a client in the advertising business, it's about 3 years. Some last longer, but the average life is 3 years. I mean, ours is better. I mean, we've lost clients early too, but our average life is like 8 to 9 years. And we've had some clients for 22 years. I mean, I've been in business 37, but I've had some for a long time, which helped that go up. But, again, going back to what I said before, we realized that we needed to do our work well, but we are in the relationship business. So we work very hard on making our team cohesive, being very cohesive with the client's team, and working as one unit. But once we get the client, our job basically, again, we have to increase sales, but what do? Is we look at two things, two simple things. And this has really never changed in 37 years, and it will never change probably in another 37 years. You want to get the message right. You have to get the story of this company right. I mean, we'll call it the message. It's not just the words. It's just not the look. It's everything. It's, in terms of a fancy brand definition, our definition of what we call a brand is a claim of distinction. I mean, that's, I guess, our fancy way of saying that's what we call it. But a claim of distinction means basically, why them? Say, I had a chain of pizza stores, and they were big. Why them versus, Domino's, or why them versus, somebody who's Chicago, deep dish pizza. Why them could be a number of things. Their pizza's better is one. But maybe it's not. Maybe their pizza is subjective, it's not that much better, but maybe the way they treat their customers when they come in, like Moe's. I mean, what makes Moe's different from Chipotle? I mean, it's a little different, but Moe's, welcome to Moe's, and they just have a little cute little thing. That's a brand. I mean, welcome to Moe's is part of their brand. Their brand probably is they want to feel like they're friendlier. I mean, a brand is something that can make you different. So in our job, and we have a process that we go through to make a brand different. I mean, we basically, and I learned this the hard way. I mean, the first half of my business career, I'd get a client, I'd meet with the owner. In many cases, the owner hired us, and me and the owner would talk, and he's telling me stuff, and I'm writing it down. I go back to my team. Okay, this is what Joe told me. This is what makes him unique. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. And I realized, after sort of knocking my head against the wall a few times with that, we weren't really talking to enough people to get a varied story. The owner of a business maybe is the last person to give them a really good, honest story about their business, and probably the same with my business. We look at it from sort of a different vantage point than maybe everybody else does. So we do what we call a brand development session, where we ask for the owner, a marketing director if they have one, but if they're salespeople, the people who answer the phones, customer service. We ask for a cross-section of the people who work for that company. I'll bring the team that works on that account, and in our case it may be 5 people. And we just ask them all these questions. I mean, we basically say we're going to be in a room for 4 hours. And usually there's a meal involved, so we'll bring in breakfast or lunch. No phones. Cell phones are all off. I mean, you can't wreck the vibe by taking calls, even the owner of the business. I mean, it's not allowed. And we ask them questions. We write stuff on a wall, trying to figure out all these facts, all the facts about the business. Tell me about your history. Tell me about your competitors. Tell me about the secret sauce. Tell me about this. Tell me about that. We write them all down. And then we say that takes 2 hours. First of all, what it does for us is it gets us up to speed quickly about this company and the industry. Then we go back. Usually we take a bathroom break after 2 hours. and everybody refreshes. And then we come back and say, okay, we're going to go through all these points. And if one of these points, if it really doesn't make you unique, we're just going to put a line through it. So many points are really good for us to understand. The business started it's a pizza chain, let's say. The business started in 2002. Okay. Is that really unique? No. I mean, if they told me the business started in 1802, well, I would circle it. But, well, that wouldn't make sense because it probably wasn't pizza then, but, or 2000. But we'll just keep the ones that make them really unique. So usually the way it works is out of those 150 facts, we're maybe down to 20. And then we're getting somewhere. And we explain too, these things we're circling are really, we really want what can make you unique. So really we keep working it. Let's see, of these 20, let's really think hard. Which ones could be truly unique to you? Is it the sauce you use? Is it your mom's recipe? Again, it's a pizza place. Is it the way you dress? Is it your location? And we're crossing stuff off. We're going from 20 to 10. And now we're getting closer. And basically our philosophy is, if you have too many things, you can't build a good brand around too many things. You got to be good at something. You can't be good at everything. Got to be good at something. I mean, McDonald's isn't good at quality food, but they're good at fun. I mean, most people think McDonald's is fun, or something to that degree. We're doing the same thing. We're trying to figure out what things. So at the end of this session, if we've all done our jobs well, is we've narrowed our list to probably 3 to 5, or 3 that we're bringing 5 into 3. We're thinking that there's some things. So we leave with 3 points. We call them USPs, unique selling points. So what we do, and the good thing about this is, the powerful thing about this is, we get agreement. They're in the room with us. I mean, we didn't do this on our own. We did it with the customer. So the customer's not going to come back and say, what the heck are you doing? Where's this come from? We know where it comes from. We were all in the same room together. We're coming up with we're using these points to build our creative. So basically, we leave the room, shake hands, and we give them, okay, in our case, we usually like to sit on this and work on it for a month. So we'll talk to them, but basically we're not bringing anything back right away. We said we're gonna take these points and we're gonna come back with some creative ideas. So internally, then we all regroup. And this is where sort of the magic part of our business happens, is we say, how do we make these 3, let's just say from this pizza place, the 3 points are centered on the sauce they use, the way they greet their customers, and the way the place looks. Let's just say those are the 3 things. We're trying to come up with a campaign to really make those 3 things sing, really make it pop. So whatever we're doing, in our website, let's just say our TV commercials, we're doing, say, local TV and cable, billboards, and a digital campaign geared towards young students we think could go to these chains. We're thinking our campaigns, and we come up with some concepts. So maybe we're going to present, sometimes we like only one concept. Because, if we do it right, we only should have one concept. But sometimes we have one we love and one that's just like A and A-, so maybe we'll show them A- too. So that's half our job. Half our job is figuring out what to say. The other half is where to put it. Like I already said, TV, but really in our business, 2 things. Say the right thing, put it in the right spot where people will see it. Your target audience. And let's just say this pizza place, and that's where they help us a little bit. Because we say, well, who comes into your stores? I mean, do you see a lot of families? Do you see a lot of, is it a family type place? Is it maybe a little bit skewing younger? Are you near college campuses? Are you near, are you in a city, where there's a lot of, Cleveland? I know Cleveland, but let's just say Jacksonville. There's a lot of young people in Jacksonville. Tell me the demographics, and that we get in the meeting. So we're getting that in our brand development meeting too. We're understanding who their customers are. So we're working almost like parallel paths in this month. We're working on, what we're saying, but at the same time we're saying, okay, where do we put this stuff? Like in almost every case nowadays, websites involved. The people always go to a website. So that we always know we're either rebuilding it or redoing it. So that's almost a given today. And again, some businesses, you could work almost all digital. We could do a campaign where, basically when we say digital, we want them to Google high. somebody's made, in a lot of business that works well. In a pizza place, I think you'd probably need some traditional advertising. And when we say traditional, it could be, TV geared towards, younger person, let's just say. And maybe it's not even TV just on an ABC, NBC. It's pre-roll, or we're buying on Hulu. Nowadays TV can be reached a number, obviously you probably know this, but could be delivered a number of different ways. So part of our job is understanding that. And let's just say it's in a market where billboards are inexpensive and people are hard to reach. Well, everybody looks around them. So we sort of like billboards and buses if you're in a bus market. So whatever the product is, whether it has a consumer audience or even a business-to-business audience, our job, again, right message, how do we reach these people? If we do either of those wrong, it won't work. We could have a great message in the wrong places, it won't work. We could be in the right places in the wrong message, it won't work. So, but on the good news is there's only two things we have to worry about. So if we do those two well, and we, again, run our business, we're friendly to work with, we build relationships, come up with the right message, right place to put it, we pretty much have a good direction now. We have a base to build a relationship, an account. I guess in a nutshell, that's our business. What we do, again, is we always monitor it. There's no message that never gets changed. Even a long-term campaign like Flow from Progressive. And that's pretty much like a home run. And Progressive was right in my backyard in Cleveland. They were a nice company, but good company. They specialized in insurance for people who had a hard time buying insurance, so it was very expensive. They sort of went mainstream and came up with the Flow character. It's pretty much a home run now. They've taken it, and they've gone mainstream. Not just insurance for people who have a bad driving record. It's people, regular insurance, home insurance, other things. Flow gave them it worked. But even in that, you could see I could see it because I look for it, the evolution of a character. Flow was a character and a brand, and it was a home run. But it evolved. McDonald's, you're all too young to remember when McDonald's started, but I'm not. It started, with Ronald McDonald and the Golden Arches. It's evolved, but there's still the Golden Arches, and Ronald McDonald may be somewhere small. But even though they have a brand that works and they move, everything's tweaked. Everything is analyzed, and that's part of our job too. And again, if we're, like I said, our average client, we have 8 to 9 years. We only have them, and we already know that things are going to change. But you got to start somewhere. So we want to start well. But we also know that we have to monitor this stuff all the time. It's not like a plug and play. I think that was a misconception that I think people thought of our business. When I talked to other groups, and I've taught this as an adjunct professor in Cleveland. People thought once you come up with the campaign, if you come up with the right one, it works. You walk away. It's great. You want to get the right campaign, certainly, but there's always the clients that we work with day to day. We're always looking at things, trying to tweak things, trying to get better, trying to understand our audience better, trying to find out even if our message is right on, how do we then, instead of spending, $100,000 on TV, maybe we could spend 70 on TV, and maybe we could put 30 more into digital advertising. Maybe Facebook advertising is pulling in more. We only know that because we have to analyze this data all the time. So let's tweak the budget. Those are things we have to do daily. And again, our customer doesn't really, they care, but they don't care. They want to know if business is good. So they feel good about us as if they could say, okay, as long as Rosenberg Advertising's got this, I don't have to worry about it. So got this sort of means that we have to be on our game. We have to always, take the responsibility of that. We're just not walking away from this, even though we came up with a good idea for you. We're always going to make it better, which for us is actually good business too, because we keep the client longer. And that's how I built my business. So, but that, I guess, in a big picture, and even though we're smaller, but mid-sized in Cleveland, but smaller in the scheme of businesses, I guess, the ad business is sort of like that. It's not everybody, it's always message, it's always place, and it's always monitoring. I think that, that is sort of what we, in a nutshell, there's so many dots, to dot and T's to cross, but that's it. Make sense? You want to be in a business now? But that is it. So then you get into the nitty gritty of this. Like, how do I build my team? I'm like, how do I get people, because back now again, I'll go through everybody, but in our company, I started it, and the two people in order are Melissa and Austin. So this is Melissa, and that's Austin. So they're partners with me. They help run the business. Just a case where, like, what did they study? I mean, what did they do in college? I mean, just, again, I need to, when I started it was just me and then me and a person, so you build a team. But just, right now, I guess to put us where we are now, what kind of team do I need to keep the promises we make and to be good at it? And what do these people look like? I mean, Melissa studied, she's an artist, she's a graphic designer. I hired her 14 years ago. I mean, her degree was, she was a graphic designer who went to University of Toledo. I hired her for actually one of the more basic positions in our company than a production artist. She had actually the most boring clients to work with. And we had an ad in the paper, and I was looking for a beginning artist, basically, somebody who was maybe right out of college or you're out of college. She was living in Toledo with her husband. Her husband got a transfer to Cleveland, and she saw the ad and she wanted to work there. She sent me all her stuff. It was way too good. I mean, it was good, but I needed somebody, talent level I wanted somebody good, but I wanted somebody who realistically would be okay doing this sort of grunge work, I guess in all honesty. She kept sending me stuff. I hadn't met her. Send me stuff. And I know her, but I said, Melissa, your stuff's wonderful, but you'll get bored with this. And I can only pay you this much because that's how much we can afford to pay this position. No, I want this job. And she had worked for an agency in Toledo for like 3 or 4 years. And then she had worked for advertising for a political person before that. And I said, no, you're not going to be happy. I've done this before. Would not take no for an answer. So I guess this is another point I want to make here. I had picked out another person to hire. And actually, I had agreed this other person, she fit the bill better than Melissa. Young, seemed good, but a year out of college and seemed like it would be a better fit. Melissa would not take no for an answer. Just harassed me. And then finally said, okay, I will see this person. Because I didn't officially give that person the offer, but I sort of told her we'd like to run to hire. Well, she came in, and her work blew me away, but I had seen her work before. And I said, Melissa, I can only pay you, I think before her last job, and again, this goes back 14 years, but I think she was making like maybe $40,000. And I think our position offered $28,000. And I said, I'm embarrassed. You're better than this, but this is, this is where we need to be. I feel this is the right place for me. And I liked her. She was a really nice person. Her work was really good. And I said, but I'm going to have you work on this one account. I can't help. I need somebody to do this. And it was very modular ads that would run in like supermarket type things where, price of lettuce, price of this, price of that. It was not creative. Well, the long story short, I did hire her. She went to work and she did that. But then, that didn't take all her time. It took like 70% of her time. So I said, okay, I'm going to start giving her more, better stuff. And she did good. She knocked it out of the park. And she was still, at that point I had 5 designers. She was the lowest of the 5 designers. She did her work, but she also would come to me. She had a very business mind. But she was a designer, and I didn't look at it that way. Well, Dave, why don't you do this? Or the company should do this, and the company should do that. And at first I was sort of taken aback a little bit, thinking, is she really in a position to tell me this? But then I sort of realized, you know what? She's right. These are good ideas. And who cares where they're coming from? They're good ideas. And she kept doing it. So eventually we started to give her, I found somebody else to do this boring account. And I gave her better accounts to do. Well, then she still continued to think as an owner, even though she was like a designer. One of our higher designers now, but still a designer. Well, so she was with me like around 8 years at that point. and I started to think, it's about the time I moved to Florida, and I was thinking, I'm going to have to come up with a succession plan for my business. Well, I sort of knew if my son Austin wanted to do it. If he didn't want to do it, then he shouldn't do it. But, at that time, he just started with me, but he even said, I don't know if I want to do this, and don't worry if you don't think I'm a fit for it. But on the other hand, if I am, I want to be considered. Well, after a few years, I realized he liked it and was good at it. But I think there was got to be somebody else because I was looked at it. I was a sole owner, but I thought it may be better to have two owners, particularly they were going to be on the younger side. But I talked to a lot of people in my office, but she was the one who stood out. And even when I announced her as a partner, people who had been with me like 30 years at that point, some long-term employees, they said, "Wow, she's the right person." And but basically, I did not hire her for that reason. She, that was the farthest thing from my mind. At that point, I don't think I was thinking of succession planning anyways, but she felt it in her gut, and I think she knew and I think going back to what I said before, you have to like what you do. I think she knew the environment she wanted to be in, and she got a sense of the environment that she'd be working at. And that's one of the things I actually take pride in our company is we have a really good culture. People get along. But if you don't pull your own weight, they're going to ostracize you. So, in a way, they're tough, but they're nice. But on the other hand, if we hire somebody and they don't feel that they're pulling their weight or don't have the same mindset, they're not there long. So they're nice, but they are tough. So she just felt that was the right culture, and she was right. So sometimes, and again, she was getting paid a lot less than she was making before. She was getting paid less than her skills were, I guess, required. But she got it. But she felt so strongly that it's more important to be in the right environment and doing what you want in the environment. The work she knew was beneath her, but I think she saw a bigger picture. And I like that because I like to think that way too. So that is that's a valuable lesson, but it's true. There's another person that I have another story like that too. But that, her background was design. Austin's my son. So he grew up knowing I was in the business. But he didn't know what he wanted. And he's like a little bit of a salesman. So he got a marketing degree, but he took a job, sales in Jacksonville, Florida. So actually he lived in our house in Florida before we did. And he worked for a company, but he wasn't loving it. And so we brought him on 2 years. My rule was I didn't want him even looking to work with us for about 3 or 4 years. I wanted him to work somewhere else, to have somebody treat him meanly before I did. And so he came to us, but I even said, give it 2 years. And he said, I don't even want to, let me see if I like it after 2 years. So it worked out, but his degree's in marketing. And I guess this goes back to degrees. And again, I don't know, this is just my philosophy. I like it if somebody has a degree related to what we do. It's helpful. So, but it's not the only criteria we look for. I like that. So when we're hiring somebody, and say it's an account executive, like what Austin did, which is work with clients. I'll look for somebody who had a marketing degree, a communications degree, but I'll look almost equally for what things they've done in school, like internships, huge. Clubs they've been involved with that maybe show some leadership, big. What things do they do with their time outside of just going to class? And I'm not discounting going to class. It's all important. But sometimes we may have a position for an account executive. We'll get a lot of resumes. And so say I get, 30 resumes, 50 resumes. I'm only going to hire one person. So we're not going to interview 30 people. So we narrow it down. If somebody has a degree in marketing, I like that. But that won't necessarily bring them to the top. If they have a degree in marketing or communications, and I've seen they've done some internships, even if it's for a week or something, just so they feel like they sort of understand generally what we do. That helps. Then I start to see they have activities, because I like people who are well-rounded, because I think are inquisitive, because that's part of the personality that works in our business. That starts to raise them. So then we usually narrow it down to 10 at most, sometimes 5 to talk to. We could leave some really good ones without even looking at them, and I know that. But we don't have time to talk to 30 people. And we like to do hiring ourselves. We don't farm that out to a firm. Internships and activities for us are very big. So if you do them, great. If you don't do them, you're young enough where you still have time to do them. It's a good separator. Grade point average, I like people who are good students, but that's not the biggest thing for me. I don't want somebody with a 2.2, but I don't need somebody with a 4 point average. I want somebody who's well-rounded. I guess with that point, our team, I got off my thing.
You can go down on the, and click that one. Yeah.
Okay. The guy next to Austin, he's been my longest employee. He was a graphic designer in the Army. So he's been with me actually 35 years. He didn't know anything about advertising. He was an illustrator, drew pictures. At that point, I had a part-time job, had almost no money to offer him, and he was the only one who applied. And he's been with me 37 years. Him and I learned the business together, basically. But he had no desire to run a business. This person, Kara, was hired the same week I hired Melissa. She's like our senior art director. Again, her skill set, not to run a business, but her skill set's design, and she's a beautiful designer. So she does a lot of our higher end work. John is our programmer. We build websites. John has a lot of skill sets. He does some of our videography, and I think nobody's in his classes in this field, but that is a very important field. It's a hard field. When we have somebody who's a really good programmer, who's like a normal person, is great. It's an important skill set, becoming more and more important every day. And we're lucky we have him, but it's an important thing. Angelia is our web designer, but Angelia is almost like a diamond in the rough. She's not only a web designer and a great designer, she knows how to also code websites. So between the two of them, we pretty much build, design, and code all our websites. That's the areas that we're growing in are website development and digital. So those are the next person we're hiring is another digital marketer, which I'll get to. Rachel is one of our digital marketers. Rachel, what makes digital marketing people good, in my opinion, is they're really good writers, believe it or not. The skill of writing, a lot of times when somebody hires us, again, like I said, we do a lot of things, but the website's the first thing. And if you build a really good website, you got to draw people to the website. So the most important thing we can do is bring traffic to it. And a lot of it, you could buy, we could do campaigns like Google AdWords campaigns where you pay to play. You basically pay and, somebody clicks on it, you pay, but it gets to your website. But actually the better way is organic search, which means you're building your website in such a way that people are going to find it without having to pay to play. But the way we get there is we're always changing the content on a site. And we like blog writing. I don't know if you guys talked about stuff like that, but like blogs are, and I didn't even get this, that the younger people were telling me about blogs. I could not understand the importance of them until we started doing it for ourselves. It's huge. New content, refreshing your content often is really important in the Google Analytics world of this stuff. So our digital people, like Rachel actually was a mathematics major, believe it or not. She's very good at math, and so she started in this digital field, but she's an excellent writer. And that, I would have even known that, but it's just all our people that we hire, actually we look for writing skills very much. So, because I used to even have a copywriter, just a plain copywriter on staff, and we lost a good one. She wanted to work for a bigger agency. We never replaced her because we basically all replaced her. Almost everybody in my office, including me, writes. We're better at different things. Some people are better at headlines. Some people are better at blog type writing. Some people are better at ad copy writing. Writing is probably a constant in our office. Not everybody's a good writer in our office, but of the 14 people, I would say probably 12, 2 I think are not good writers. But we cobble it together. So, I look for a lot of things, to be honest with you, I guess, but writing is important. It doesn't mean you have to write, Pulitzer Prize novels. It's just understanding, again, different types of writing. Big skill, though. Nellie's our social media person. We're small, so we have one. Nellie was a PR major. And again, Nellie's a very good writer. And Nellie handles all our PR. So, perfect person for us. Clients love her. She's easy to work with. A lot of them, we like sometimes the clients who are social on their own because they're closer to the action than we are. And sometimes we find it's better if they do it themselves, but some of them don't want to do it. They'd rather pay us to do it, which is harder because, we're not there all the time. But Nellie somehow manages, and she probably juggles 20 accounts doing this, but she's able to stay engaged with them. And they're varied from industrial companies to, we do have a client in Dayton, Ohio that's pizza and subs, to staying with them, which is much different, quicker. But Nellie was a PR major. Marissa is basically director of operations. Other than Austin and Melissa, she's my most senior person. Marissa never went to college. And again, I'm not recommending this is the route to go. She started as a part-time bookkeeper for me. This is the next point I want to make here, is that once you get a job, and again, I can only speak for me, but I network with other business owners, particularly in my field. This is pretty much a truism. Once you get the job, we don't really care where you went to college. We don't really, at that point, you already got the job. We only care what you're doing for us. What you did before helped get you to here. And we like you because we hired you and we want you to succeed. From now on, all we care about is what you do for my company. And, interact with other people and make us better, make our clients successful. Marissa, I think took a bookkeeping class at a vocational place for 3 months. And we needed a bookkeeper. She's been with me a while, 16 years. So it was smaller and, pretty soon she did that well. And I said, okay, maybe come part-time or full-time. I need people to help me with HR stuff, payroll. And then she did that. Well, then we started getting into these watch. We got a little niche in high-end watches. And I was managing it. And we were doing these big catalogs. But there was a lot of moving parts. And she was very detail-oriented. So, Marissa, can you help me with this? It was 60 different brands in this 120-page catalog, and we had to keep track of it, we being me, and that's not my strong suit. And so she was helping me. And then all of a sudden I realized she's taking it over from me. And I said, you know what, do you want to be an account executive on this account? So, long story short, she's still doing all this stuff. She's our bookkeeper. She runs our office. She basically manages our second biggest client who's in LA. So we're managing a budget of about $750,000, which we pretty much generated from scratch from them. And again, she just kept working and kept getting better and kept helping us and helping me. And that, I don't recommend, I would never say this to my kids, or I would not say that you don't go to college. I don't believe that. She just happened to be lucky and we hired her. But what I will say is, once you get in that door, that's why I'm even big on taking internships. If you really, then they're not paying you. Okay, everyone wants to get paid. So what? In the scheme of things, at least you're in the door. And that is huge. I've hired interns. We've hired several interns. You just never know. But once you're in there, it's a new, hopefully you like it. And again, this is going back, and maybe it's your first job, you're not at the exact place you want. You need to get a job, and you know what you like, so you keep this all in your mind. But remember, I just told you that, though. You could have graduated summa cum laude at a nice school and, been captain of all these teams and clubs. Once you're in the door, that doesn't matter anymore. You're on even footing with everybody else. It's what you're doing today. So maybe that's bad news, maybe that's good news, but it's true. But that gives you a chance to not reinvent yourself, but be the best version of yourself. And that is what, basically that's what we look for. I've been lucky. Of the people in our office, like this one's funny. Connie has been with me 32 years. I mean, Connie helped me build the business. I mean, now she's a mom with 3 kids and doesn't want to work full time. So she's our media person. Connie is the only person I know in history who got a degree in travel. I didn't even know there was such a thing, but she got a degree in travel and tourism. And I hired her literally 2 or 3 days after she graduated college. So the only place she's ever worked is with us. She's great. She's like one of our best friends. But Connie was a perfect case of that. I only know what she majored in. We make a joke of it because she, I'll say, what do you major in? She tells me. But she just became so invaluable. And right out of college, she became an expert in media. She never took a class in media buying. She didn't know anything about it. She didn't know about any of this stuff. She just made it her point to get good. And she probably would have been a partner in a company if she wanted to, but it wasn't important to her. It was more important for her to raise her 3 kids. But she wanted to have, involvement, so she works like 2 days a week. But Jared's an account executive. I think Jared was a PR major, and Jared's great. He's great with people. Again, we started hiring for that. He's great with people. And Tori's a digital marketer. And Tori, I believe, was a journalism major. And again, Tori is a great writer. She's probably our best writer. So we give a lot of stuff to Tori. But yeah, I know time's run out. What I look for, and then please ask me questions. Obviously, if you have a little bit of that skill set that we have a place for, whether it's a digital marketer, account executive, we like that. So majors do come into play there. And again, activities and internships. So say you've done that well, and we're going to interview you. So you're competing with, let's just say, 5 other people, just like probably we would be when we get a client. Usually that seems to be a round number there. Why you? Why would we hire you? At least I'll give you my perception, and I have a network group of 12 other ad agency owners. We've talked about this a long time. We're pretty much all on the same page with this one. We want someone who demonstrates. We don't care if you're an extrovert or an introvert. We don't care. But we do care if somebody that we generally think really wants to work with us and make us better. And again, some people interview better than others. So we've hired some people who say that, but we've learned. So we're not perfect. But that's not only, so we hire that, but then sometimes people, walk the talk and sometimes they don't. If they don't, we let them go. But if they do and truly mean it, like a Melissa or a Marissa, then, we have a number of people who pretty much want to work for us for their life, and that happens that much. Half my people are women who have kids that they have to give childcare, and it's hard for them. And I even say, why are you even coming back? And some of their husbands have really good jobs. A lot of them say, well, we love being at home with our kid, but we think this makes us a better mom, and we want to work. We like the place. We love the place. No, I'm not even asking for that. I'm sometimes say, are you sure? I have a daughter. I have 2 grandkids. I understand this, but they say, no, we love working for you. We love working for the team. We like when we help our clients. For them it's not BS because they've proven that. They've already shown me that. But we like people that we really feel, and if they feel like they've outgrown us and want to move on, I'm fine with that. That's happened to us too. But people that really we really genuinely feel that they care. They came into the interview prepared. First of all, that's one thing. It's almost ridiculous to go to an interview now because it's sort of hard to get an interview and not be fully prepared. Know that website. But not only know the website factually, get a feel for it. Is it a company that's sort of, cutting edge? Is it company that's casual? We sort of call ourselves family members. So people, will even send us like a cover letter with the resume and address it, like they want to be part of our family. Or they'll use wording that we know at least they've taken the time to go through the site and at least thought about it for a minute or two. Which is easy to do, but on the other hand, we like that. It's shallow, but we like that. So, but we like, and caring is probably the most important thing. And then we're going to ask a lot of questions that are going to get off the main topic. We want to understand you as people. I mean, we want somebody who we feel fits into our company, fits into the other people. Because I know it's sort of like a team game here. Our average client has about 6 people per team. And a lot of people, so we have a lot of clients, the teams are changing all around, but they're always working with a number of people. So if we have people who don't work well with someone else, it just doesn't work. We have to let them go. So I always look for people that, are good people, who treat people the way, they want to be treated, type of thing. If you're already in the interview, we already think you could do the job. So we won't press you too much on the technical part of the job. We'll press you on the type of person you are. Because ultimately, that's what we are looking for. We will know technically you could do the job. So we'll ask some questions on that. But, the getting along part and showing that, I have somebody who's really like committed to making us better is really intoxicating for us. I mean, so I guess you got 3 minutes for questions. Any questions?
Guys, take this opportunity, ask questions.
Okay.
Do you travel a lot to go see these new clients, or do they come to you?
It's a good question. I would say a lot of we are based out of Cleveland. I live here, but I would say most of, we have one in California, which was sort of a fluky story how he got that one. We did catalog work in shoes, and the guy had a shoes, that was out of Chicago. So I got him through a referral. He was in Chicago, but he had a store in California. The shoe store happened to be very close in California next to this watch guy who happened to see our shoe catalog and said, wow, I like that. So he called me, and I said, I haven't done watches, but we had jewelry account in Cleveland. So that's how I got him. But most of our leads are from local companies. So I would say most of our work is based out of Ohio. Our 2 biggest clients are actually out of town now. The watch company is our 2nd biggest client. Our biggest client is actually a sewing machine manufacturer that's out of Sweden and Germany. And then their sales headquarters were in Cleveland. So we got work in Cleveland, and then they merged with Singer Sewing, which is a big sewing company, and they're in Nashville. So those are our 2 biggest clients. That's the one client I've had a long relationship with and I still work with. Most of it's in Cleveland. So we don't really travel much. I travel more because I live here and my company's there. So I actually travel more than I did when I was living in Cleveland. But no, we picked up a client in Eugene, Oregon through a referral, so my son handles that one, so he's gone out there. So there are some random travels, but it's not a huge part of our business. We usually get our clients through either a referral, which tends to be a local company, or they find us on the website and they're looking for somebody local. Or it could be a bigger company but is looking to have a plant or something in Cleveland, which we've picked up. So. But we're not opposed to that. If it's a right fit, we will go out, But now we don't knock on doors. When I started, I knocked on doors. I was the annoying people who make cold calls. I did that. But back in the day, you had to do that. There was no website. There was no internet. There's no email. That's what you did. Nowadays, we don't do that. We wait for people to come to us. They knock on our door, and then we have to make sure there's a good fit. Because we know there's a lot of work even to get a client. So we can't say yes to everybody, because even when we say yes, we don't mean, it means we have to spend a lot of time preparing for all these meetings, knowing that we're not going to get them all anyways. So we've gotten smarter about the clients that we say, okay, we're willing to talk. Because in most cases, we know we're not alone. We're competing, and we have to put in time. When we're a small business, we have to service our regular clients anyways. So, but we do get leads, and the internet's a big source of our leads. We practice what we preach. So when people Google ad agency Cleveland, marketing firm Cleveland, branding Cleveland, we usually come up pretty high. Our site's fine, but we're going to redo it. There's certain things about it we don't like now, so we rebuilt it 2 years ago. We're going to rebuild it again next year, and that's sort of par for the course too.
When you're looking at resumes and you see internships on there, are you looking at more of the experience of it, or are you looking at how prestigious the company that you interned was?
That's a good question. I'm not looking at the prestige of the company. I'm looking at what you did or learned in it. And even to the point where, I mean, sometimes you have summer internships, but sometimes we've had people who spend a week's vacation over Christmas break. You know, a friend of a friend's kid. I mean, that seems to be, that's okay. I mean, even if you spend a week with me, you're gonna learn something. So I'd like to see, let's just say it wasn't even a fancy company, but say you spent a week, you know, helping them sort out their database or something that'll resonate with me that at least shows me that you've done something related to what we do. Or even if you sat in on brainstorm sessions, you know, knowing that you're probably not going to be creative director's probably gonna be more pull than you as an intern. At least you understood the process. So yeah, I think the company. I mean, if it's a good company, that's fine. I like it. But I'm more interested actually in maybe what you just saw and did, understanding that you're not running a company, but it helps. Yeah, and I like activities too. I mean, and I used not to look at that, but in time I understood that even being in a club, having some say in like helping run things translates well to us. And it took me time to understand that. I really wouldn't have said this 30 years ago, but I'm saying it now because the interpersonal part of our business is huge. If the person is not good at interpersonal skills and persuading to a point, it's tough. I mean, I'm not gonna say it won't work out, but it's tough. So that's why we're all keenly focused. Actually now Austin and Melissa do the hiring. We're adding a person in a few weeks, so they're starting the process. But we're all on the same page. They're in tune to that. Well, does anybody want to be in advertising after today? Maybe? Well, remember what I told you, it's important to like what you do. That's huge.
Okay.
Thank you.